my name is Mary Kinloch, and I'm going to show you how to make dandelion flowers and the seed pod with my laser cut sheets. The first thing I'm going to do is take one of the sheet of flowers and clamp it with the hemostat, and then I'm going to go outside, hold it against a piece of cardboard, spray both sides with Design Master yellow spray paint. I like Design Master because it's a floral spray, and then I'm going to hang it on the edge of the table to let it dry. The leaves I usually do the same way, except that I paint them with various shades of green acrylic paint, dipping your brush frequently in a little bit of water and painting from the connection away, and then flipping it over immediately and painting again the other side. Then also clamp it and hang it to dry. Do not leave it on the wax paper, otherwise paint will seep under and it will get all rubbery, and the petals then will be useless. Now, once your dandelion flowers are dry, you want to take an X-Acto knife and at the tiny little connection, touch the X-Acto knife to that point, and they will pop right out. Sometimes they pop too far and you have to chase them, or sometimes you have to pull one out that's trying to be stubborn. Okay, now you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 9 flower petals, and you're going to start from smallest to largest. But the first thing you need to do is you take your 30 gauge wire, you dip it, the tip of it, just the very tip of it, in a little bit of white glue, and then into some crushed yellow foam. Now, if you don't have this foam is made by Woodland Scenics, and it's for model railroads. You could also just mix some yellow paint with the glue and dip the tip of the wire in that. The reason for that is when you start pushing flowers up, you don't want to push them all the way off the wire. You need something to catch them. Now, one time I taught a class, and one of the ladies said that getting the wire in this little hole was impossible. It is not impossible. Make sure that the end of the wire is cut so that it's a nice clean cut, and then put the wire in the center where the hole is and gently push and twist, and you'll catch that petal and push it to the top. Now, I'll put a little touch of glue under that crushed foam and push it right up to the top. Then I'll keep doing the next one and do the same thing. Little touch of glue and push it to the top. Now, if you are having a hard time catching the hole, it's because the tip of the wire is not cut flush. It needs to be cut, and if you bend the wire, you need to cut it off. You've got a good long piece of wire, then you have plenty to cut off. Many times what people do is they do like that, and they press, and they end up with an end like this, and then if you try to straighten it out, it doesn't really straighten out. So you have to take some scissors and cut the end of that wire off, and make sure you now have a nice clean edge. Put the wire in the center, push gently and twist. If all else fails and you still have a hard time getting these petals up, you can always take a pin and make the hole bigger. I don't, because then you may be able to see it. But so keep trying. It's not that difficult. Some people just have a horrible time, but others can do it. As you can see, it's not difficult. Now, the next thing, here's the flower when it's finished. The next thing that I do is I mix a little bit of gel medium, and that is what this is. This one is all green, and what I have done, because you don't have a lot of glue holding that flower in place, and you don't want it to somehow knock off.
Repeat that. You don't have a lot of glue. Start there.
You don't have a lot of glue on the flower holding it in place. Okay, so also what this is going to do is it's going to make like a calyx for the dandelion. So what I do is I dip my brush in this mixture of gel medium and the green paint, and I apply it just underneath the flower and make it like a little bulge under there. Again, if you don't have access to gel medium, it's quite expensive. I usually get it at Michael's when you have a 50% off coupon. You can always use the white glue mixed with paint. Just be careful that it doesn't get too thick. But as you can see, you have like a little calyx underneath the flower. Okay, then the next thing that you're going to do is do the leaves. Now, here's leaves that I have painted and ready to put on the flower. I'm going to use a ball stylus and kind of give the leaves a little bit of shape so that they're not totally flat. Whoops. And then make them bounce all over the place. Then for the leaves, I'm going to use white glue and Zap-A-Gap. This is Zap-A-Gap.
Wait a minute. Okay.
Okay, and I get it on eBay. It's usually with the model train stores. And I'm going to puddle out a couple of drops of Zap-A-Gap. Now I'm going to take my dandelion flower and I'm going to dip the very bottom end of the leaf in just a tiny, tiny touch of white glue and then a breath of Zap-A-Gap, and I'm going to place it on the wire, and it's supposed to give you an instant bond. Occasionally, if I miss the first time, you won't get that instant bond. I start out with the larger leaves, and then sometimes what I do is I go in between and put the smaller leaves in the front. Oops. There we go. So you could also start with the smaller ones, put the larger ones to the outside, whichever way you find more comfortable. And I usually put like 7 or 8. It's better to do odd numbers of leaves and flower petals. It just looks more natural. And if you don't have a real steady hand, as you can see, what I do is I have these very pointy tweezers. I dip
my leaf in the white glue, the Zap-A-Gap, and then I find a way to steady my hand, like so. Okay? Now that's the flower, all ready. I'm going to put it in my little flower holder and let it dry. If I see when it's dry any little bits of glue, I'm going to touch them up with green paint. Now, for the seed pod, I have white flock, and I have put some in a little cup and some in a little squirt bottle. So you can see it's just a little plastic bottle that a lot of people use for glue. The reason for this is you want to flow the I find a wire here. Okay. You want to make the flock drop on to the wire so that it looks like a real seed pod, how the pod, the little things stick out instead of looking flat. So I'm going to dip my wire in just the Zap-A-Gap and then into my little bowl here. Okay? Now I'm going to go back to the Zap-A-Gap and just a tiny, tiny little touch. And then I'm going to drop it onto the wire. Okay, now that didn't turn out big enough, so I think what I'm going to do is go into a little bit of white glue, then touch it into the bowl, then go back to the Zap-A-Gap and do that again. Now if it doesn't come out big enough this time, then I'll do it again. But for this scale, the seed pod is going to be pretty tiny. And this is 1/12 scale, so imagine in quarter scale, it's real tiny. Okay. There we go. When you do this, you'll be able to see how the difference in the flock standing up more by doing it this way. Then the next thing that I do after that dries is I take my little mixture of gel medium and I paint the wire with it. It gives it a little bit of realism because the gel kind of gives it that juicy look or something. Okay, now I'm going to stick this in my flower holder, let it dry, and do the leaves the same as we did the flower. The one thing that hint that I would give you is keep in mind the scale that you're working in. You don't want this flower to be so tall that when you put it next to a ruler, it's an inch tall, because that would mean that it's in scale it would be a foot tall, which a dandelion has never been that tall that I know of. So anyway, that concludes making dandelions, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.